about their transactions, but I will say that you know, we're in financial services, and it's already a challenging industry, right? If you go work for a wealth management firm or whatever, Primerica opens up the doors to many different communities, any age, any level of education, but at the end of the day, if you're coming in at 18, 19, the odds are stacked against you just for anything that you are starting, because that's a very young age to start. Even I started young, I was 22. These guys have a 4-year head start. You know, now they're both 19 when we started. So it's very young. But that being said, one of the things that I say in the orientation, because people say, if I don't have any experience, or I'm young, or both, how is it that I'm gonna go and talk to people about such a sensitive topic like finance? Like, there's no way to hide it. You don't have any experience. There's no way to hide that. There's nothing you can say to make you look or sound experienced if you're 18 talking to people about retirement, insurance, things like that. But what I tell people is, in any situation, if there is a value gap, then you can succeed, all right? So, if I don't know how to do my own oil change, if I go to the dealership and he's working and he knows how to do an oil change, all that matters is I don't know how to do it, he knows how to do it, so I'm gonna pay him that $30 because there's a gap in our knowledge. He knows something that I don't. Now, oil change is not a big deal, so it's only worth $30, but still, I'm going to pay him for that even though I'm older and he's younger, right? That's all people care about. It's the same thing in financial services. The majority of the population, the general public, knows in general how much about personal finance. Virtually nothing, very little. So if you spend 6 months with us like he has, how quickly, not are you gonna know as much as Samir, right? But how quickly can you know more than just the average person that you're sitting across? Very quickly, within a matter of months. So that gap starts very quickly. Now, in the beginning, it's a few $100s and it's a few $1,000s. You're not gonna be making Sheila's income because the gap has to really grow from you and the person sitting across from you. But, you know, I think one policy was how much per month? $225. Ben's dad?
Yeah, $225.
$225, and then the one yesterday was $140. One was a $500,000 policy. I haven't done any field training appointments with him. Right? He's been on a lot of field training appointments with other people. I have never done it. But Ben's dad is probably worth like $15 million, right? At least. And Xander did the appointment all by himself and now issued a policy for this guy and his wife. That was a huge policy. This is at 18. 19. It's funny how that, when we get older, we're like hoping they say younger. I'm over here pretending like I'm 32. Yeah, so they'll go over, you know, Shondell and I went over the policy with him, but he did it on his own. And they're gonna come up here, he'll tell you the story about the policy, and then they'll both break down the policy. So give it up for these guys. Yeah.
Awesome. So, yeah, we're going to talk about destroying cash value, which is what Xander did yesterday. So before we get into it, I'm going to let Xander just tell you guys a little bit about background, how he met the client.
Yeah, so Adric in Michigan, he goes to Planet Fitness like every day, and he's seen a guy in a business meeting doing bicep curls, and he prospected him, and he actually invited him to an Amway seminar. And then he went there and told him what he did, and he's like, oh, I actually have life insurance. He said, oh, really, what do you have? He told him his whole life. This guy was so open to setting up a meeting, and he just got on there. I broke it down to him, and yeah, it was easy.
Pretty straightforward, right? So With
This
that,
guy makes 300 grand a year.
Yeah.
He's somehow an animal.
Yeah, when I asked him in the meeting, like he said nothing about him.
Yeah.
Like he was
But he-
embarrassed by it.
Yeah, but he was there.
But he was there.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, people are open-minded, but yeah.
yeah, so basically Xander told me he is a business owner. He apparently has 4 auto body shops in Michigan, makes about $25,000 a month, and he's 24,
Yeah.
right? So his age 24, tobacco. He just got this policy in August. He got it mainly because his parents have policies like this, right? Multiple, apparently, who Xander's going to be following up with. He felt underinsured. He wanted to get more coverage. Because obviously he makes more money, he wanted to get more coverage, and he was actually looking into getting another policy just like this on top of that. And then one of the questions that we always ask clients when they have an insurance policy is, what was your reason for getting it? Did you get it for the insurance, the investment, or both? And so this client actually said he got it for the insurance only. So at that point, Xander was like, oh, this is easy. This is going to be simple, because he wasn't really worried about the investment at that point. And he was paying about $3,800 a year. So $317 a month, and $250,000 whole life, $250,000 term, so $500,000 total. So one of the biggest things that he started to ask the client started to ask about was being able to borrow from the cash value. And so one of the things that we broke down and went over with him was actually looking at the cash value and helping them calculate what you paid in versus what's actually in the policy. So if he was paying $3,800 a year, after 10 years, he's paying $38,000, right? So if we looked at the cash value table at 34, he was 24, he'd only have $20,000, right? So that's 18,000 less, right? And then 20 years down the road, he pays in 76,000, right? And he's 44 years old, he only has access to 51,000. If he keeps this long term, 35 years down the road, he pays in $133,000 to only have access to 106,000. So that's looking at the policy and breaking it down. And here we have the accumulated value, which shows how much he'd be able to have access to, and then obviously this just shows his age. But it was a very simple question, and this is all Xander said when he talked to him.
Yeah, so I actually got this from Samir, but I just said the only reason you're able to borrow from is because you're putting in so much more than you can actually take out. And the reason I took 28 years was because his objection was my mom just took out 80,000 per policy. So I just found where he would have 80,000. And I said, in year 28, you'll put in 106 and get 80,000. So it's no different than you going to the bank, putting in 100,000 and taking out 80, except now you have to pay yourself back plus interest. So.
Yeah. And on top of that, if you pull out money from your cash value in a whole life policy and you don't pay it back, right? Now you're reducing the death benefit that your family would have access to. So it's not just paying interest on what you're borrowing, you're also reducing the death benefit, right? So here, we just broke down to them, well, he broke down to them, buy term and invest the difference. So a very easy way to break something down to a client is go over what they're paying monthly, the coverage amount, and then what their investment situation would be like, and then ask them which one makes more sense. So here, Northwest Mutual is paying $217 a month. So when Xander quoted him for a term policy for $500,000, it was only $82, right? So the difference there was $235 a month. So if you break it down, it's significantly less. You have the same amount of coverage, all 100% term. And then when you look at the cash value, one of the things that I really liked is the fact that when you're investing, all of the options to invest in mutual funds would be better than any situation in cash value. So I broke it down. If you were investing anywhere from 6%, so like worst case scenario, to having it grow at 12%, potentially best case scenario. After 10 years in this cash value, you only have 20,000, right, like we talked about. But in mutual funds, could be anywhere between 30 to 40 to 50,000. 20 years, 100 to 200,000, and long term, 314 to over $1 million that he can have invested, where the cash value again would only be 100 grand. So keep it simple, and this is literally how he closed. Is what he said.
Yeah, I just said what makes more sense to pay $317 there and you only get the insurance, or pay $317 with us and you get both if you die.
Yeah, exactly. So with that, and he didn't only close on the 82 because the guy wanted more coverage, right? So he went into the appointment with quotes prepared already for $500,000 and for $1 million, and the guy ended up going up with $1 million, $144 a month, and then I think you're gonna be following up with Samir, right, for investments.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that would be huge. So I'm gonna go into compensation, but any questions about this really quick? Pretty straightforward? Cool. Alright, so if somebody dies with whole life, do they get their cash value?
No.
No. Okay, very important. Make sure you know that. Now, very easy. How long did it take you to do the appointment?
The first appointment, like 45 minutes, and this was like 30 minutes probably.
Okay, so total, an hour and a half. So learning this information and being able to break down a policy like this in an hour and a half, if you do, right, the monthly premium times 12, you get the annual premium $1,700, and a rep, $432, right? Part-time agent, get a license, learn how to do this, like $432 in an hour, right? District leader, $864, Xander's division, $1,000, right? For learning this. And you're gonna be meeting with the parents who have like 5 different policies like this.
That's awesome.
So, who knows?
That's cool.
Yeah. Anything else you want?
So the way I got him to, I'd really just asked him if he wanted $1 million or $500,000, but him and his wife, they had a kid on the way, and they just bought a house and the mortgage is like $550. So I was like, dude, if you die and you only have $500, like, she's not gonna really have anything. So that was really the way I did it.
Theodore?
I guess, like, did you have them both prepared? And
Yeah.
So you showed them the 500 and they're like, well, your mortgage. And then you're like, well, I got these other options.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Alright, I think that's all I got. For now.
Good.